place. Yeah, you're in. You, Rory, you're in.
Hi, you hear me?
Yes, you're in. You're in. You're
Hi.
in. You're in.
Hi, everyone. Okay. Shalom uvracha. Shalom uvracha, everybody.
Boker Tov.
Okay, tov, okay, Mitzuyan. I say in the Arma you say a good Omer, a good Alma. There's no official hello for the Alma, right? Alleen. Okay. We are going to learn een heel interessante topic vandaag. It's always interesting, but today is.
You always say it's interesting.
What?
You always say, how interesting. It is always interesting, but you say it yourself. Okay, go ahead.
I say it for myself, it's good. But at least I find it interesting, it's good, no?
Yeah, okay. But most is interesting.
Okay. Okay, so I was by a bar mitzvah this week. Actually, this week was 2 bar mitzvahs in Amsterdam. At least 2. One from family Evers and another from family Tabib. So family Tabib made bar mitzvah zondagavond. Okay, so the bar mitzvah boy, David Mariv, for the Omid, his verjaardag was Sunday or Monday, but Mariv on Sunday night, he's already bar mitzvah for sure. So why not the boy wanted to daven for the Omid? So the bar mitzvah boy daven for the Omid on Sunday night. After Mariv, we do Sefiras Haomer. Now, Sefiras Haomer, the minhag is that the chazan says it first, says it loud, and then afterwards everyone says the brocha of the Sefiras Haomer together, gewoon met minyan, after the chazan. Now, here comes the halachische vraag, the halachische question. The boy, now became bar mitzvah today, Sunday or Monday, magni out. And he wants to say the Sefiras Haomer met brocha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushon b'mitzvah v'tzivonu al Sefiras Haomer. So now he's mechuyev b'mitzvahs because he became bar mitzvah. A boy who becomes bar mitzvah from the bar mitzvah, he's already mechuyev in all the mitzvahs like everybody else. So what is the question? Why not? Why should he not say Sefiras Haomer? He's mechuyev. But we all know there is a famous question in Sefiras Haomer. Is the 49 days from the counting of the Omer, the 49 dagen, eine mitzvah? One mitzvah from counting from Pesach to Shavuos. One mitzvah which tells you count 49 days. Or every day is a new mitzvah. Count today, count tomorrow. Today is 24, tomorrow is 25. What's the difference if it's one mitzvah or if it's every day a new mitzvah? What's the difference? Either way you have to count. What's the nafkemina? What's the difference if every day is a new mitzvah or if it's one mitzvah? Who knows a difference? Who knows what a nafkemina would be? What verschil is there if it's one mitzvah or 49 mitzvahs? Anyone know what the difference would be? If it's one mitzvah or 49 mitzvahs? So there's many nafkeminas. I'll give you one simple nafkemina. If I know I'm not going to count for sure the whole Omer. Before I start, I only want to count today, and I don't want to count the rest of the Omer. If you say it's one mitzvah from Pesach till Shavuos, then you can't count. Because if I'm not going to count tomorrow, then you're not going to do the mitzvah, so you can't make a bracha. You can't make a bracha on a mitzvah that you're not going to do. You can only make a bracha met the mitzvah. A bracha zonder mitzvah, you can't make a bracha. So if the mitzvah is to count every single day, and I know I'm not going to count every single day, then you can't make a bracha. And the same thing is, we know that if you miss out one day, you're counting the Omer and you miss one day, what's the halacha? Can you count the volgende dag met bracha? Nee. Why not? Because maybe it's one big mitzvah. If it's one big mitzvah, then if you miss a day, you missed the mitzvah. Because you can't do half a mitzvah. You can only do the full mitzvah.
Can you recover? Can you recover somehow? Imagine you miss one day. Can you, somehow recover it?
Well, you can't count today for yesterday. I can't say that I want to count for yesterday. I can only count for today. So if I missed, let's say, yesterday was day 23. That was on Tuesday. Dinsdag was day 23. If I missed day 23 completely, I didn't count the whole day. Then you missed you missed one day. Now, if the whole mitzvah is one mitzvah from Pesach till Shavuos to count every single day, then you missed part of the mitzvah. So therefore you lost. You're out. As they say, in cricket, what do they say? 6 and out, right? Or 6 and over. So if you missed a day, then nothing you can do about it. We feel very sorry, but you can't make any more bracha the next day because you missed a day. But according to some opinions, every single day is a new bracha, a new mitzvah. There's a mitzvah today to count 24. There's a mitzvah tomorrow to count 25. So if I missed today's mitzvah, it doesn't matter. I can still do tomorrow's mitzvah. It's like if you have a mitzvah to put on tefillin. A man has a mitzvah to put on tefillin every day. If he didn't put on tefillin yesterday, he can still put on tefillin today. If he doesn't put on tefillin today, he can put on tefillin tomorrow. Every day is a new mitzvah. So there's a famous question by Sefiras Haomer, the mitzvah of Sefiras Haomer, that the Torah says count from Pesach to Shavuos. Is it a new mitzvah every single day? And therefore, if you miss one day, it doesn't matter. You have another mitzvah again tomorrow, like tefillin. Or is it one big mitzvah? If it's one big mitzvah, then as soon as you miss one day, you're out. It's like cricket, 6 and out, over, you're out. So that's why we paskin the halacha that perhaps it's one big mitzvah, and therefore, if you miss a day, you cannot make a bracha anymore. That means if you miss a full day, if you count it by day or by night, sometime during the day, every day, you are still into the Sefiras Haomer. Okay, that is something which is an introduction to our question. A boy becomes bar mitzvah in the middle of the Sefiras Haomer. So this week, I was by a bar mitzvah on Sunday night, and the boy becomes bar mitzvah. And he wants to count the Sefiras Haomer with the bracha. Why? Because now he is mechuyav in mitzvot. He is verplicht. He has to, because bar mitzvah boy has to do the mitzvot. So now, what's the question? The question is like this. How do we look at this boy? It's the middle of the Sefira. It's on day 24. Let's say today, he becomes bar mitzvah today. Today is today 24. yesterday, the day before, until he became 24, he was not mechuyav in mitzvot because he was not bar mitzvah. He was not verplicht. He didn't have to. He's a young boy. A boy who's under bar mitzvah is not verplicht. So he's a young boy who is not mechuyav in Sefiras Haomer until today. Now, today he becomes bar mitzvah. And he wants to count because he is mechuyav. Is he verplicht? Is he mechuyav to count met bracha min haTorah? That is the question. What are your thoughts? Here, it's a very, very simple, but also deep, if that makes sense. It's an obvious question because many boys become every year bar mitzvah in middle of the Omer. Many boys. And then it's a simple question. Are they mechuyav to count the Omer from the day they become bar mitzvah? Let's explain. We said before, there's a famous question whether every day is a new mitzvah or it's one big mitzvah. So let's explain. Let's take first the opinion who holds every single day is a new mitzvah. According to that opinion, it's very easy. Why? Because, I'll explain. If every single day there's a new mitzvah to count the Omer, so now he became bar mitzvah today, on day 24, he is verplicht, he is mechuyav to count. Today's mitzvah is not connected to yesterday's mitzvah. So even though yesterday he was not bar mitzvah, and today is bar mitzvah, but since yesterday was a separate mitzvah to today's mitzvah, so he counts today with the bracha. There's no question at all according to that opinion. So again, according to the opinion that every day is a new mitzvah, we have no question. A boy who becomes bar mitzvah in middle of the Omer, he is mechuyav to count with the bracha from the day he becomes bar mitzvah min haTorah. When do we have a question? According to the other opinion. According to the opinion that it's one mitzvah from Pesach till Shavuos. According to that opinion, we have a question. A boy who becomes bar mitzvah this week, today, Wednesday, he becomes bar mitzvah today. Now, he becomes bar mitzvah in the middle of a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah going on which takes 7 weeks. It starts from Pesach and it finishes on Shavuos. And in the middle, this boy becomes bar mitzvah. What does he do? Do we say that since he was not mechuyav till today, therefore he's not mechuyav until the end this year because it's one mitzvah? Or no? Even though it's one mitzvah, but since he counted until his bar mitzvah, he is mechuyev to continue counting until the end. So our question is like this. To make it simple, our question is like this. In one sentence, a boy who became bar mitzvah in the middle of the Sefiras Haomer, is he mechuyav to count until the end of the Omer, yes or no? This is a big discussion in Halacha, because this is not a rare situation. This is a situation that happens every year to thousands and thousands and thousands of Jewish boys who become bar mitzvah anytime between Pesach and Shavuos. During these 7 weeks, imagine how many thousands of boys worldwide become bar mitzvah. And they all have the same question. So it's a very, very, very common question. What does that bar mitzvah boy do? Now, let's take it to the next step. We explained, according to the opinion that every day is a new mitzvah, it's clear this boy needs to count. Because today he became a mitzvah, today he has the mitzvah. That's clear. We said that our only doubt would be, according to the opinion that it's one long mitzvah, and now he becomes bar mitzvah in the middle. So look at it as a long line, a line which takes 7 weeks to go from A to B. From A to B, from Pesach to Shavuos, it's a mitzvah which takes 7 weeks. In the middle of this line, halfway, he becomes mechuyav. Our question is he obligated to start from the middle, or do we say no? If he wasn't obligated from the beginning, he cannot become obligated from the middle. Now, let's take it to the next step. This boy, did he count or didn't he count from the beginning until now? Again, he becomes bar mitzvah today. Our question is he obligated to start counting? Min HaTorah. If anyone has any questions, or if I'm not clear, please feel free to message or to ask or to raise hand. I'm hoping that everyone who is online can understand what I'm saying. Now, this boy, today, who turns 13, let's think a second. If he counted until today, he counted from Pesach until his bar mitzvah. So today is day 24 in the Omer. So the first 24 days, he was not yet bar mitzvah. He was not yet verplicht. He was not yet mechuyev to count. Now, if he did not count, because he said to himself, I'm not verplicht, I'm not mechuyev, so I don't need to count. So he didn't take it serious. He said to himself, I'm going to be bar mitzvah only on day 24 of the Omer. So from Pesach until today, for the first 3.5 weeks, this boy did not count the Omer because he's not mechuyev. Maybe his father should encourage him to count chinuch, but mechuyav, verplicht, he's not, because he's not bar mitzvah. So he said to himself, for the first 3 weeks of the Omer, I don't need to count. I'll start from my bar mitzvah. This boy is in a bigger problem, because if it's one long mitzvah from Pesach till Shavuos, if he didn't count the first 3 weeks, it's the same as someone who misses out a day. He can't make a bracha anymore. So very nice, the boy said to himself, I'm not going to count because I'm not mechuyav. But since, in fact, he didn't count, he can't start from his bar mitzvah, because we're going now with the opinion that it's one long mitzvah, and if you miss out a day, you're out, 6 and out. So very nice, the boy has a good excuse. I didn't count because I wasn't mechuyav. Okay, but he can't start now because he's missed the first 3 weeks. But we still have a question. And what is our question? Is if you have a very good boy, he's not yet bar mitzvah, and when it comes Pesach, the first day of the Omer, he says to himself, I'm not mechuyav because I'm not yet bar mitzvah, but I want to count. I want to count every day. The same way as I try and do mitzvahs even when I'm not bar mitzvah, I want to do this mitzvah. No problem. Even more so, his father should encourage him to do the mitzvah, because a father should be educating a child to do mitzvot. So this boy from Pesach, he took upon himself, I want to count the Omer for the next 7 weeks. And according to the opinion that it's one big mitzvah, I want to make sure that I do this mitzvah, which takes 7 weeks. I want to do it properly. Here comes a question. The boy starts day 1, day 2. He's not yet bar mitzvah, but he wants to do this mitzvah until Shavuos. It comes now day 24. On day 24, he became bar mitzvah. So now here, something interesting. On day 23, day 22, and from the beginning, he counted every day, not because he was mechuyav, but rather only because he wanted to. Because he wasn't yet bar mitzvah. And now, from day 24, he is mechuyav to do mitzvahs. Our question is he mechuyav min ha-Torah to count from now until the end of the Omer? Because until his bar mitzvah, he wasn't mechuyav min ha-Torah. And he counted because he was a good boy. We said before, if he didn't count, then he can't be mechuyav from his bar mitzvah because he missed half the mitzvah. And we said we're going according to the opinion that it's one mitzvah. Because according to the opinion, every day is a new mitzvah. Of course he's mechuyav. So our whole question over here is like this. According to the opinion, it's one mitzvah. And this young boy was a very good boy. And he counted every day from his bar mitzvah until day 24. And now on day 24, he became bar mitzvah. Is he obligated to count every day? Because he's done so well until now. He counted every day and he's still in. And it's one mitzvah. Therefore, he should continue and he has to continue. Or do we say, no, that the fact that he counted until his bar mitzvah is very nice. He's a sweet boy, and his father was mechanech him. But perhaps, and this is a question, perhaps his counting until his bar mitzvah, since it wasn't a counting which he was obligated to do, he only did it volunteering. That doesn't help, according to the opinion that's one long mitzvah. Because one long mitzvah means it's the same from beginning to end, from Pesach until Shavuos. But this boy has one long mitzvah, but it changes in the middle. It changes from day 24 and on. Until day 24, he counted because he wanted to be a good boy. And from day 24, he wants to continue counting because he's bar mitzvah. But the question is, can you put those two together according to the opinion that's one mitzvah? So again, according to the opinion that from Pesach till Shavuos, it's one long mitzvah, can you connect two different chiyuvim to say that he's mechuyev to continue from his bar mitzvah? That means the first 24 days he counted as a good boy, and now he wants to continue as a chiyuv. Does the first 24 days help you to therefore say he is verplicht min haTorah to count? So is a boy who becomes bar mitzvah in the middle of the Omer and he counted until his bar mitzvah, according to the opinion that it's one long mitzvah, is he obligated min haTorah to count? That's our question. Now I ask you what your thoughts are, whether yes, whether no, whether black, maybe white. What do you say? Anyone have any opinion on this? It's a very famous question, a very common question, and it's not a question which is just theoretical. It's a very practical halachische Frage, which we need to know. If you have a boy who you know, or even just to understand how things work, it's very, very. And the interesting thing is that many boys that become bar mitzvah during this period of the year, and it's the minhag, or in many places, in many families, the bar mitzvah boy likes to speak or to say a dvar halacha or divrei Torah by his bar mitzvah. So in many cases, the boy, if he speaks by his bar mitzvah, and his bar mitzvah is at this time of the year, then his topic would be this question, or something got to do with this question, very similar to this question. And he asks himself, am I obligated? Am I not obligated? I count. If the boy didn't count till now, then he's out. Then there's no question. It's like a boy who, anyone who misses a day, they're out.
Could his father count the first, or his teacher?
Father counts, but everyone has a mitzvah.
For him, no. Is it possible to count for somebody else?
It's not possible to count for somebody else because every person has a mitzvah themselves to count. The only thing you can do is, if you're not sure whether you can make your own bracha because you have a doubt, then someone else can make the bracha. You listen to his bracha and answer Amen, and that's as if you made the bracha. But I cannot make a bracha myself if I am not allowed to. I can listen to someone else's bracha and say Amen, because that's that saying Amen to someone else is, if he has in mind to be moitzimi, which means to have me in mind in his bracha, and I answer Amen, it's also good. But my question is whether this boy who becomes bar mitzvah today is obligated to make his bracha. If he's not obligated or he has a doubt, then he always has a way out. Then he can always listen to the bracha from someone else. But we want to know, is this boy obligated to count? And what's interesting is that this boy counted till today. He was a good boy. And he wants to continue. Okay, he can continue. But can he continue, or is it just he's continuing the same as he was before his bar mitzvah? Or is he continuing in a much higher level? He's continuing in the level like everyone else. Even though he became bar mitzvah in the middle of the Omer, but he's continuing on the same level as anyone else. Why? He counted till now. It's one long mitzvah, so let him continue. Or he's obligated to continue. But our question is, Perhaps he's not obligated to continue. He can continue, but he's not obligated. Why is he not obligated? Because the first half that he did, he wasn't yet bar mitzvah. So the second half, you can't start in middle. According to the opinion of it's one long mitzvah, you can't just start in the middle. So he can continue. And here's a very, very interesting question, actually. We know that a parent is supposed to be mechanech, to educate his child already when the boy is 9 or 8 or 7, whatever it is, to start doing mitzvot. Why? Because we don't want that when the boy becomes bar mitzvah, he doesn't know anything. And the same with the daughter. You want the daughter to really start doing the right things in order that when they become bar or bat mitzvah, they already know what to do. You can't expect from a boy or a girl who turn bar or bat mitzvah to start doing the mitzvahs if they don't know what to do. Therefore, we have something which is called chinuch. Chinuch means a parent should start already when the children are younger to explain to them and help them, advise them, guide them in the mitzvot. So a boy who is under bar mitzvah, who is counting the omer or any mitzvah for this, any mitzvah that a child does under bar mitzvah, why is the child doing it? He's not obligated to do it. So why is he doing it? The answer is chinuch, educating. The same way as we educate our children with everything else, how to dress, how to walk, how to eat, how to go, how to sleep, how to behave, how to everything, how to work, how to write. We educate our children to do the mitzvot even when they're not obligated to do it. Why? So that when they get older and they now are mechuyav to do it, that they already know how to do it. So a child who does a mitzvah, who's under 13 by a boy or under 12 by a girl, the reason why they are doing it is not because they are obligated, but only because a parent should be mechanech, guide his child and prepare him for when he becomes obligated. So now let's go back to a boy who becomes bar mitzvah in the middle of the omer. If we say that what a child does when he's young, his counting till his bar mitzvah, is not because he's obligated, it's only because the father wants to educate his child to do mitzvot. Therefore, until he's 24, until day 24, he only counted because of education. From day 24, he wants to count because he's verplicht. Now, if you cannot connect those two together to make it one mitzvah, education until day 24, mechuyav from day 24, then this boy who's not mechuyav, because you cannot connect the educating days to the mechuyav days, then we have an interesting point. We have an interesting dilemma over here. Okay, so this boy is not mechuyav to count. Why? Because it's one mitzvah and he wasn't mechuyav from the start. Okay. Here's a point. Is the father mechuyav to continue educating him to count until Shavuos? You hear this? Again, this boy counted until day 24 because the father was educating him. From day 24, he's not mechuyev to count, perhaps because maybe it's one long mitzvah and he wasn't mechuyev from the start. He only became mechuyev in the middle. Okay, so he's not mechuyev to count. But does the education that the father had until the bar mitzvah continue after bar mitzvah? You hear this? You have a guy who becomes bar mitzvah. So usually we know that the minhag is that the parent, the father, says when the boy gets called up to the Torah by his bar mitzvah, the father says, Baruch shepatrani me'onasho shelazeh, which means I am free from the punishments from this child, from being mechuyav to educate this child. Why? Because until the bar mitzvah, he wasn't mechuyav. I was educating him. From his bar mitzvah, the boy already has the chiyuv himself. So the father says, basically, by the bar mitzvah, now it's the boy's own issue. He's a big boy, he's a mechuyav. I'm not mechuyav anymore. But in this situation, we have a different question. He educated him until his bar mitzvah. Is the father obligated to continue educating him to finish off this mitzvah even after his bar mitzvah? Why? Because if the boy himself is not mechuyav because he became bar mitzvah in the middle, and since he wasn't mechuyav from the beginning, he's not mechuyav from now. Okay, so the boy is not mechuyav because he joined too late. So who is mechuyav to tell the boy to count? The boy himself is not, because he joined in the middle of the mitzvah, so he missed it this year. He has to wait till next year. But the father already said that I'm only mechuyav to look after my child until his bar mitzvah. So it's weird. The boy becomes bar mitzvah. The father says, I have nothing to do with him anymore. Now he's bar mitzvah. And the boy says, I became bar mitzvah in the middle, so I can't do it. Minat Torah. So does the boy continue on his own accord without chinuch? Or is the father mechuyav to educate him in even after his bar mitzvah until Shavuos? So usually by all mitzvahs, the father educates him until bar mitzvah. After bar mitzvah, the father says it's the boy's problem. But over here, by Sefiras Haomer, the father cannot say, you are obligated, because the son says, I'm not obligated. I joined in the middle. It's too late this year. So who is? We have a boy who's stuck. I mean, he's not really stuck because he can count. Our question is, whose responsibility is it to finish off this mitzvah? On the one hand, the father can say, it's not my responsibility because his boy is bar mitzvah. And the boy says, I'm not verplicht. I'm not mechuyav because I wasn't bar mitzvah from the start. Okay, so you're not mechuyav? So perhaps it's the same as before his bar mitzvah, where he wasn't mechuyav and the father educated him. So now also, he's not mechuyav, okay, but the father should educate him. But the father says the boy is bar mitzvah. I don't have to educate you. So we go around in circles.
Maybe to be sure, both of them have to do it. Why not?
So this is a very, very interesting situation where we very rarely find. We have something similar, but not exactly the same. And that is, what do I mean by similar? When I say similar, I mean a situation where you were not, where you did something when you were not verplicht, when you were not mechuyev, and then afterwards you become mechuyev.
But so the education didn't stop with the bar mitzvah. You're not mechuyev. the education didn't stop with the bar mitzvah. Okay, it is something else. The boy's bar mitzvah, he has his own rights now, or how do you say? But I think the father has to go further to educate him.
I agree with Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. A boy of 13 is nothing. I'm sorry.
Sorry?
We say he's volwassen, but no.
But of course, we are looking in terms of a father looking after a child. A father should always be there for a child. Of course, a father should always care for a child. A father should always support a child. Here, we are looking at the responsibility for the child to do this mitzvah. Who is responsible for this mitzvah?
The child, because he has to do now the mitzvahs. If you are bar mitzvah, you have to do the mitzvahs.
Oh,
your father can support you, but you have to do the mitzvahs.
Very good. The child wants to do it. Now, this child, when he becomes bar mitzvah, why does he do it? Because he knows that I am now obligated to do mitzvahs the day I turn 13. Says the child, you're right. I'm happy to do every mitzvah that I am obligated to do. But the child says, this mitzvah of Sefiras Haomer, I came in the middle. Because for the first 24 days, I was not obligated. And according to the opinion, it's one long mitzvah. You can't come in the middle. So says the child, I'm not obligated since I wasn't obligated from the beginning. Okay. The child has a good point. He's not obligated. Same way as we missed a day in the Omer, you're out.
You're out, but you can tell without broker.
Okay, but the child wants to count.
You have to count further. You're not out. You're not out of counting. You're obligated to count till Shavuos, but without broker.
Yeah, that's if you missed out a whole day. Our question over here is: this boy did not miss a day. He counted.
He started in middle. Yeah.
No, but why? Well, how did he start in the middle? Only because he became a chuyev in the middle.
Yeah.
He counted every day until his bar mitzvah.
For fun.
Is he counted, but that counting wasn't a counting of obligation. It was a counting of chinuch. How do we look at that? But if we look at that as, okay, he counted, would I care what it was?
I'm sorry, what is the difference? The boy starting about, I think, 30 days before bar mitzvah to lay tefillin. It's also chinuch. And then after bar mitzvah,
tefillin is every day a new mitzvah. So there's no question. Every day mitzvah.
Okay.
I don't care if you miss a day.
It's not a good example.
but that's why this is an interesting question, which really is only by Sefiras Haomer, because Sefiras Haomer is a long mitzvah which schleps and goes on and on and on for several. According to the opinion, it's one long mitzvah, which we go with, because if we miss a day, why don't we count the next day with a bracha? Because
we have to finish.
Only because we're worried to the opinion of it being one mitzvah. According to the opinion, every day is a new mitzvah. You can make a new bracha. But the halacha, according to the Shulchan Aruch, we are choshesh. We go with the opinion that it's one long bracha, and therefore, if you miss a day, you're out, because it's one mitzvah which goes from Pesach till Shavuos. It's one mitzvah. Every day you make a bracha on that same mitzvah. It's not a new mitzvah. That's why if you miss a day, you're out.
Yeah, you're out. You're out, and you're not out because you have to count further. But
you have to count further without a bracha.
There's not a mitzvah anymore.
Why? Why do you have to count further without a bracha? Because perhaps, since there is an opinion who holds every day is a new bracha, every day is a new mitzvah, therefore, even though you missed a day, but there is an opinion that holds that it is a new mitzvah every day. So therefore, at least count. Don't make a bracha, because perhaps you're making a bracha levatala for no reason, because perhaps it's one long mitzvah. So in order to cover yourself, if you missed a day, then count without a bracha, because at least according to the opinion that every day is a new mitzvah, if you've counted, even if you didn't make a bracha, at least you counted. Because the bracha is not the main effect of the mitzvah. But we cannot make a bracha if you missed a day, because perhaps it's one long mitzvah, and if it's one long mitzvah, you missed a day, you're out. Yeah. Going back to this bar mitzvah boy, here we have an interesting point. This boy, he did count every day until his bar mitzvah, so he's not out. But his counting until his bar mitzvah wasn't a counting of mechuyav b'mitzvot. Yeah. It was a counting of chinuch b'mitzvah. And now, from day 24, let's say today he becomes bar mitzvah. Yesterday he counted because chinuch. Today, our question is, perhaps he has no obligation to count because he became bar mitzvah, he became obligated in the middle. And if it's one long mitzvah, then half is nothing. Yesterday he wasn't obligated, now he is obligated. Half is nothing. It's either everything or nothing. But here, he did everything, but the everything that he did till now wasn't because he was mechuyev. It was only because of chinuch. Mm-hmm. How do we look at that?
So maybe now he has to count without the
bracha. Yeah. That's the question. Does he count? Is he obligated to count with a bracha on his own accord? Because it doesn't matter that it was chinuch till now, but that can continue into an obligation since he counted. Or no, perhaps till now was chinuch, okay, but he had no obligation, so therefore he can't start in the middle.
Maybe he has to count before his bar mitzvah without brocha, and after his bar mitzvah with brocha.
I know, but if he did without his bar mitzvah without brocha, but
maybe that is better.
No, but why can't he do with a brocha till his bar mitzvah? Why not?
No, it is chinuch. It's not.
Why
not a mitzvah for him?
But every mitzvah is not obligated. Yeah, okay. How can you make a bracha?
You have also the same bracha for to eat. No, okay, sorry. This is not
yes, we always make our children, even under bar mitzvah.
Yeah, we to say brachas.
Yeah,
you're right. Well, I'm thinking about the solution.
The solution. So I give you a week to think about it, because the answers and the explanation is, let's call it another share, because there's a. So I leave you hanging.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you think about it, we'll go into it. Even if someone joins next week and they're not into they haven't heard the question, but we can discuss the next part of the share on a topic of its own.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Shkoyach.
Thank you very much, Shkoyach.
Keep a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.